Hey friends, my name is Oleg, this is Bonya. That's what my mom calls him, Bonya. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. In today's video we're going to do a full review of Monta Oceanking. Monta Oceanking Diver. Now this is a very interesting watch because it comes from a Microbrand, but it's priced at $2,000, $1,970 to be exact. However, right now it is on a bit of a sale, so you can get one for $1,750. Nevertheless, an expensive watch. However you spin it, almost $2,000 for a Microbrand watch is quite a bit of money. So is the watch worth this price tag? Well, let's get into it. But before we do, I just want to let you know that Monta did send this watch in for the review, and we don't keep it. We do have to send it back, so it's a loaner. That's not going to affect the review in any way, but I just thought you should know. Now, let's talk about this watch. And here it is, Monta Watches Oceanking. Let's start the review by looking at the case dimensions of the watch. It has a diameter of 40.5 millimeters, lug-to-lug distance of 48 millimeters, a lug width of 20 millimeters, and it's only 12 millimeters thick. Here's what the watch looks like on my 7.5-inch wrist. I think this watch fits great. I love the slim profile of 12 millimeters. I also like that diameter of 40 millimeters. I think it's just a great sports watch size. It wears very similar to a Rolex Submariner, and it doesn't have these protruding first lugs, so the watch would fit smaller wrists as well as the larger wrists. The weight of the watch is comfortable 156 grams. The case is made out of 316L stainless steel. The finish and fit on the case is executed really well. So we have a brushed finish on top of the lugs and polished finish on sides of the case. The finishing is done really well. I really like the rounded off edges, the chamfering on these lugs. It makes the watch look more high-end. Also really like the design of these first links. They are not protruding, as I mentioned earlier. It has this hinge on the first link, which I really like. I wish more watch companies did that. It makes the watch much more comfortable and also reduces the overall lug-to-lug distance of the watch. We also have a crown at the 3 o'clock position. It is a signed crown with the Monta logo, and we have these crown guards. Now, one complaint that I have about the crown, in my opinion, it's slightly undersized. It is a comfortable crown, so it doesn't dig into your wrist when you wear it. However, it's slightly hard to operate, and that's partially because, in my opinion, it is undersized, and also partially because the grip on this crown is not the greatest. So maybe for future versions of this watch, the grip on the crown needs to be improved. It is, however, a screw-down crown, helping with that 300 meters of water resistance. They actually put 3 or 4 meters, so it's exactly 1,000 feet. That's kind of interesting. We also have a screw-down case back with an engraving of Monta Watches logo at the back. Not too much writing there. Just as Monta Watches, stainless steel, the 300 meters of water resistance, and the rest of it. Nothing really to brag about with this case back. It's done pretty well. However, I really like the finish at the back of the case. You can really see that they've done a pretty good job with the overall finish on this case. I also really like the shape of this case. So it's not exactly flat, but it's also not too much of a curve. It has slight curvature, so it will fit on the wrist really well. It also will kind of hide this case back, so the case back doesn't protrude when you wear the watch on the wrist. And the overall shape of the watch makes it much more comfortable to wear. It has a ceramic bezel insert and a 60-click bezel. Kind of an interesting choice. I've seen a few watches lately with 60-click bezels, including one of my favorite divers ever, the Tudor Black Bay 58. Have a listen. Firm clicks, nothing to complain about, and not much backplay whatsoever, and the bezel does align properly. I hear the biggest complaint about 60-click bezels is the fact that a lot of times they don't align properly, and when they don't align properly, it's very obvious with the 60-click bezel. I personally don't mind a good 60-click bezel. However, I do have one small negative with this bezel specifically, and it's the grip on these teeth. It's slightly difficult to grip, and bezel has quite a bit of resistance, so it's not the easiest bezel to turn. Once again, improvement for future versions, my suggestion would be to make these teeth a little bit more prominent so it's easier to grip and to turn this bezel. While we're complaining about stuff, let me give you a small nitpick. That's just a personal preference right here, and it's these fives. So the 5 at 15 and the 5 at 45, I don't really like that font. To me, it kind of looks off. I know it's just a small nitpick and most people would not care about that, but to me it just kind of throws the design off a little bit. If you look at the 30, that looks normal, but the 5s here, they kind of look like they don't belong or they are in a different font. Not my favorite design feature. However, what I do like is the loom, because this bezel is loomed as well as the dial. Here's a look at the loom. The loom is pretty good. It's a BGW9 loom. Lasts for a pretty long time, no complaints there, and it's nice and evenly applied. It's difficult to create a brand new design in a diver watch category without that design being similar to other diver watches that came before it. This watch here is reminiscent of a Rolex Submariner. However, it's not an homage, it is an original design. A few design choices that I really like are these sword style hands. I think they fit the aesthetic of the watch really well. I also like the prominent markers at the 12, 3, and 9 o'clock positions. I like how they are larger and they stand out more. It gives a nice symmetry to the dial. I also like the date window at the 6 o'clock position, and I don't even mind that it's not color matched. In fact, I think if it was color matched, it wouldn't look as good. So the execution of the design is really good. I like the minute running track, the seconds hand here with the slight arrow tip on it. Swiss made, written by the 6 o'clock position. Not too much writing on this dial at all, just Monta watches and the logo by the 12 o'clock position. Oceanking, 300 meters of water resistance, closer to the 6 o'clock position. The quality of this dial, the execution on the hands and on the indices are done really well. Something that you would expect from a watch for around $2,000. This Monta Oceanking does have a sapphire crystal. It's a flat piece of sapphire crystal with AR coating underneath. It looks really good. Not a lot of separation between the crystal and the bezel, and that's one of my telltale signs of a poor quality watch, when you see too much of a gap between the crystal and the bezel or the crystal and the case. Another telltale sign of a poor quality watch is a poor execution on the bracelet, and this bracelet here is excellent. First of all, there's not much of a gap between the case and the bracelet. Again, one of the big telltale signs of a poor quality watch. I also like how the edges of this case are rounded off or rounded in, so it makes a transition between the case and the bracelet just a little bit nicer. The bracelet itself is similar to the oyster style bracelet like you would find on Rolex watches. However, the way these links are designed, they actually bend both ways, unlike oyster bracelets in Rolex watches where the link would only bend like so. So it makes the watch a lot more comfortable on the wrist. It also has solid end links, as you would expect, solid links of course, and screw-in-place pins. One aspect of the watch that I really like is this clasp. It's kind of big and oversized, and you would think, why the hell would you need such a big clasp? If you look at the proportions between this clasp and the watch, you can see that the clasp is almost as long as the watch had. Well, let's break down this clasp. First of all, we have this guard with the Monta logo, and it's just a friction held in place clasp. So it's a friction resistant, doesn't have any pushers or anything like that. Monta logo right here on the inside of the clasp. Of course, it's an engineered clasp, but the biggest star to me personally is this glide lock style mechanism. Something that you would see in Rolex watches like the Submariner, and you can also find it in this Monta watch. So you can unclip it, move it in place like so. Once you find your perfect fit, you just snap it in. Very useful. I really like that. In fact, I only have one watch with this function. It's a Janot Ocean Rover, and I really love that watch because of this function. It's just so useful, especially on hot summer days. The movement in this watch is called Monta Caliber AM22 movement, but it's not actually an in-house movement. So let me explain what they mean when they say AM22 caliber movement. Basically, Monta puts either Sellita SW300 or ETA 2824 movements in their watches. So depending on which one they can get their hands on, which one they can get for the better price, and of course that depends on the time of the year and probably their supply chains and all that jazz. Instead of changing their website each time, instead of updating their manuals each time, what they have done, they created this generic movement, Monta M22 caliber movement, and that actually refers to either Sellita SW300 or ETA 2824 movement. I'm not sure which one this watch has, the Sellita or the ETA. Doesn't really matter to me personally. However, if you are interested and before buying one of these watches, I would actually send a quick email to Monta Watches and ask them which one of the movements you can expect in your watch. In my opinion, both movements are very solid, and the one in this watch, either ETA or the Sellita, is running very accurately. I'm getting within 3 seconds per day. So that's the review of Monta Oceanking diver watch. What are my thoughts on it? Well, I really like it. I think this is a really good quality timepiece. As I mentioned, it does have some setbacks, it does have some negatives, and actually there's one more negative that I want to mention to you. So this is my Oris, and this is what it sounds like when it's on the wrist. It doesn't make much noise in terms of the bracelet noise. Now, if we put the Oceanking on, this is what Oceanking sounds like. As you can hear, quite a bit more noise. Now, the two bracelets are very different. The Oceanking has kind of this fluid bracelet, as I showed before, so that's why it makes a little bit more of a noise. Maybe not a fair comparison. Let me take out another watch. Now, this is a Zelos Mako version 3, quite a bit cheaper than the two other watches, and has a similar bracelet to Monta watch. So it makes a little bit of noise, but not as much noise as the Monta watch. Not a huge deal, but it's something that you should be aware of if you buy one of these watches, on top of the other two small negatives. The first one being crown being a little bit too small and doesn't have such a great grip. The second being the bezel doesn't have such a great grip. Also, other than that, pretty good specs, pretty good watch. However, the biggest hurdle for the watch is that price point, $2,000. Now on a discount, $1,750. In this price category, you can get quite a few different watches. You can get something like this, like Oris Aquas. The two watches do have very similar specs. Maybe give a like to this video if you want to see the comparison between the two watches. So I think the biggest challenge, the biggest negative for Monta watches is that price tag. The market of people that are willing to pay $2,000 for a Microbrand watch is not as large as the market of people that are willing to pay, let's say, $400 or $500 for a Microbrand watch. Nevertheless, it is a pretty great watch. I am impressed with Monta watches, and for $2,000, it's not like you're going to be disappointed with the quality at all. So I am really excited to see what else Monta watches comes up with in the future, and hopefully I'll get a chance to review those watches. Now, I appreciate you watching this video until the end. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and if you want to see the comparison between these two watches. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you don't want to miss more videos like this one in the future. And of course, leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about a $2,000 Microbrand watch. And do you have Monta watch in your collection? Were you looking to get one? Leave all those thoughts below. I always enjoy reading your comments. By the way, today on my wrist, I was wearing the Oris Aquas 43mm. I did a full review of this watch, and I did a story behind the purchase of this watch. That video can be found on the YouTube channel. I will also leave it linked in the description below. Also, in the description below, there are two other links. The first link is to bondnatostraps.com. If you're looking for a great quality NATO strap and want to support this YouTube channel at the same time, buying one of these NATO straps is a good way to do so. The second link is a secret link. Have a look if you're curious. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had fun, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. How did I get the squeaky chair again? You tricked me. I think I gave you too much kibble. But, alright. I guess you deserve it. And of course, drool all over my shorts.